Members, visitors and guests, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our 20th meeting of this Rotary year, which happens to be our 4,916th meeting since the club was founded 101 years ago. It is wonderful to see everyone in 3D again. We still have some 2D participants and they're with us, and I welcome them and hope you feel included in this hybrid meeting. Our guest speaker today is Lord Mayor Sally Capp. Sally is here for the annual State of the City address and will be more fully introduced later in the program. In the meantime, would you please acknowledge and make our Lord Mayor welcome. As a guest of the club, welcoming us back, we have Sofitel General Manager Clive Scott, and also attending today, Club Auditor Greg McCluskey, and a new member to be inducted shortly, Elmer Joldick. Please acknowledge and make them welcome. We have some visiting Rotarians and visitors and guests of members. I invite you and your host to stand when your name is announced and ask that you please remain standing to enable the club to welcome you in a collective manner. Firstly, we have Christina Zhao, President of the City of North Melbourne Business Precinct Association, who's the guest of Yidan Z. We have Wendy Fergie, who's a guest of Madeline McManus, David Scalzo, a guest of Quinn Scalzo, and Blair Anderson, guest of Peter Dakin. Visiting Rotarians from Australia, we have the Assistant District Governor, Murray Anderson. Please make them all welcome. First item on our agenda today is an induction. It's always a huge pleasure to do this in person. In a year when we've had so few face-to-face meetings, it is wonderful that we can at last induct a new member in our lunchtime meeting. Would Elmina Joldic please come forward for induction into membership of the club? Elmina will be introduced by her sponsor, Quinn Scalzo. Quinn, would you come to the podium with Elmina?
Come through, Elmina. Good afternoon, everybody, and wonderful to see everyone here, and wonderful to be in a position to introduce Elmina today to the Rotary Club of Melbourne. Elmina is part of the Brotherhood of St Lawrence and has been working with us in the welfare of the young, and it's a great pleasure to see her being inducted here today and make the relationship between the Brotherhood and ourselves, which is long-standing, and we're very fortunate to have Peter Collingwood here today, and so we're very grateful. It's an opportunity to induct Elmina. Over to you, Mr. President.
Elmina Joldic, we welcome you as a member of the Rotary Club of Melbourne. 35,000 clubs in more than 200 countries embrace the internationality of Rotary. We believe that you have the personal and professional qualities that will ensure the principles of Rotary will be safe in your keeping. The Rotary badge you'll receive in a moment, and I hope will wear with pride, indicates your commitment to the objects of Rotary, to which we all aspire, to encourage the ideal of service above self. We expect that you'll become an ambassador from us to the community in which you live, and we ask that you convey Rotary aims in all that you do. We look forward to your pursuing with us the great work of Rotary. So with this expectation, I offer you the right hand of fellowship and ask that members rise and join me in welcoming you to the club. Welcome. And I'd now like to invite you to briefly respond and tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's so exciting to be here. I mean, firstly, face to face. And just before I start, I also would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people and our traditional landowners that we meet, and all those past, emerging and present. I'm so excited to be formally part of the Rotary Club. I've had the pleasure of working with Queen Scalzo and others from the Rotary Club over many years at the Brotherhood of St. Lawrence. And as I hear 100 years for the Rotary Club, I'm reminded that the Brotherhood has been around for somewhat 90 years. So we're close in birthdays. And as I sit next to Peter Hollingworth and hear about the history of the Brotherhood, I'm reminded of the common values that the Rotary Club and the Brotherhood of St. Lawrence have. And I think this is one of the many reasons why we've been able to form a very strong, healthy, thriving partnership over the last 5 years. And not just 5 years before me, the partnership was there with Tony Nicholson for many years. So I think the idea of supporting one another and coming together and collaborating to really help those most in need is, I think, foremost one of the biggest values that I recall personally meeting the Rotarians that I've met over the past few years. Briefly to reflect on myself, I'm in charge of anything young people at the Brotherhood. So I have the privilege of heading up a team that drives systemic change and really wanting to change up things for young people who experience disadvantage. We've been able to do that more strongly since our partnership with the Rotary Club, leveraging the networks and the contacts and the expertise that all of you have around the table. And it's only through collaboration that I really think we'll be able to actually really change things in a meaningful way for those that are most disadvantaged. On a personal note, as a former refugee myself, some 26 years ago, it excites me to bring my own flavour of Bosnia to the club. And I'm not sure if I'm the first Bosnian. I hope I am. If not, damn it. Well, I should say Bosnian Australian. Yeah, so I'm excited. Thank you very much. And I look forward to really formalising this over the next few years.
Thank you very much for a great introductory address, Almina. I'm now going to briefly adjourn this ordinary meeting and call to order the 100th Annual General Meeting of the Rotary Club of Melbourne. And I might just say it's such an honour to have our Lord Mayor with us today. Thank you, Sally. The first thing I will do, of course, is welcome everyone, whether you like it or not. You're at the Annual General Meeting and a wonderful achievement of this great club. In another historic first, please welcome our first AGM conducted in hybrid format. Honorary Secretary Russell Board has advised me that there are 67 Rotary Melbourne members present, which constitutes an excess of the number required for a quorum, so I can declare this 100th meeting of the Rotary Club of Melbourne Incorporated open. Voting for this meeting will be via a show of hands by those members online and in person, and is open to all ordinary members of the club. Corporate members are entitled to 1 vote per company. The minutes of the 99th Annual General Meeting have been circulated. The first motion that I'd like to put, moved by Peter Davis and seconded by Phil Cornish, is that the minutes of the 99th Annual General Meeting of the Rotary Club of Melbourne Incorporated, as circulated, be taken as read and confirmed. Do I hear any objections to that? All those in favour, please raise your hand. There being no objections and what seems a unanimous in favour, the motion is carried. The second item is the minutes of the special general meeting, which was conducted on the 3rd of February early this year. The minutes of that have been circulated. The motion is that the minutes of the special general meeting held on 3rd of February 2021 of the Rotary Club of Melbourne Incorporated as circulated be taken as read and confirmed. I have a mover. I believe Ari Talantis is willing to move, and Keith Callanan is willing to second. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion is carried. The receipt of the 100th Annual Report of the Statement of Accounts. 100th Annual Report and Statement of Accounts for the year ending 30 June 2021 was distributed by email and also is available in hard copy on request. The club must officially receive these documents. The second motion is that the 100th annual report and statement of accounts for the year ending 30 June 2021 be received. The motion has been moved by Peter Hanlon and seconded by David Carruthers, who is with us virtually. Is there any discussion of the financials? There being no discussion, I'm going to put the motion. Please, all those in favour, raise your hand. Any against? The motion is hereby carried. Thank you, everyone. Please join me in congratulating past Treasurer Peter Hanlon, along with David Carruthers, on the preparation of the 100th financial statement, the 100 financial statements of the club. Thank you both. Election of office bearers. In regard to the positions of President-elect, 2 Vice Presidents, Treasurer for 2022-23, no nominations were received other than those received from the nominating committee as reported to the meeting on the 27th of October 21. I therefore have great pleasure in confirming the elected office bearers of the club for 2022-23. I ask them to stand. One probably will have to be satisfied with seeing her on screen, and that is President-elect Bev Brock. Next year's President Bev Brock, President-elect Chris Soteropoulos. I'm not sure he's with us or online today, is an apology. Vice President Catherine Baxter, Vice President Peter Davis, and Honorary Treasurer Jing Lin. In addition, Sana Malik has agreed to take up the role of Assistant Secretary. Honorary Secretary Russell Board will stand down after 2 intense years as Honorary Secretary, and the incoming Honorary Secretary is still to be finalised. As previously announced, the nominating committee has nominated Catherine Baxter for President-elect position 2023-24, therefore to be the President in that year. Would you please acknowledge and join me in congratulating these members for their willingness to step up and serve our great club. Finally, I think close to finally, no, there's 2 more things to do. In relation to the vacancies for the retiring directors that will occur on the 30th of June 2022, no more than the required nominations were received by closing time. I therefore have great pleasure in confirming the following members as directors with effect from the 1st of July 2021. The re-elected directors are Carol Bond, Carolyn Burr, Bernie McIntosh, Nick Pelham and Iqbal Rita, and directors continuing are Mark Lacer and Chris Soteropoulos. Would you please join me in showing your appreciation for the incoming directors for their willingness to serve? Appointment of the auditor. Only 1 nomination has been received for the position of auditor to hold office until the annual general meeting, next annual general meeting. I therefore have pleasure in confirming the appointment of Greg McCluskey, General Manager of GM Auditing Services Proprietary Limited, who has confirmed his willingness to continue to act as the club's auditor. Congratulations, Greg. Item 8 is other business. There's been no other business proposed. So I therefore, there being no other business, I now close the 100th annual general meeting of the Rotary Club of Melbourne Incorporated. Thank you all for being here. Whew. I'll try and switch back out of robotic mode and into presidency mode. I'm now going to briefly adjourn. Sorry, that's learn how to turn your page, Reg. Okay, it's Rotary Foundation Month, and I would like to call Sue McCarthy to the podium. I think, is Sue here? Yep. Sue, would you like to come and join us and tell us a bit about how we can support the Rotary Foundation? Thank you, Sue. I think you all heard that.
Well, that's the purpose of it. Thank you. Very nice to see everybody. One of the advantages of belonging to a Rotary Club is its internationality, as anybody who's visited an overseas club will be aware. And one of the aspects of the internationality is the Rotary Foundation. Now, the Rotary Foundation is a very large charity, and it aims for and achieves largely a lot of good in the world in the areas of health, among others, in the areas of health, education, and particularly peace. Nothing could be more important at the moment, I think, than peace. It can only accomplish, the foundation can only accomplish its aims with member contributions. And I am standing here asking you to contribute. It's any amount will do, but it's not at all difficult to contribute. Our local initiative is the rather awkwardly named EREY, which stands for Every Rotarian Every Year. And the suggestion is that each Rotarian gives $100 per year. Now, if you think about the last couple of years and the enormous amount of money you've saved on Rotary lunches, not to mention on your international trips, $100 a year isn't really much to ask. I should perhaps point out that we do have a handful of very generous members in this club who give $1,000 a year and hence belong to a special club. But I'm here to talk about EREY and $100 a year. How do you do it? Well, it's not even remotely difficult. I'll be standing at the exit with a few forms for anybody who wants to join. If you would rather do it by email, which I'm sure many people would, just tell me and I'll send you a form electronically. It doesn't matter how you do it, just please do it. Today would be a good start. Thank you very much.
How could one resist a pitch like that? Thank you, Sue. Okay, and now to our club notices. Firstly, a special mention for the Paul Harris Fellows Breakfast. There's a flyer on every table. Please have a look at that. It's a virtual event, unfortunately, but well worth attending with a fantastic speaker set up for that. So the flyer has it all. I'm now in a position to, one other thing I just wanted to say to you, it's important that people take note that I think on the 5th of February, the Australian Rotary Health Foundation will be hosting a gala fundraiser, and that fundraiser, the tickets to that fundraiser will be available. We'll have the details in the bulletin this week. Please shop early to avoid disappointment. There's an early bird discount if you sign up before the end of November. And I'm now in a position to draw the raffle, and I can declare that I don't have no interest in this raffle. And I shouldn't even... No, I just didn't take tickets. Okay, the ticket is a purple ticket, C20. Quinn Scalzo. Well done, Quinn. It's not a bad drop of wine either, I promise you. Okay, now I'd now like to get on with the real business of the day, which is to hear the address from Sally Capp. And to do that, past President Peter Dakin is going to come to the program and introduce Sally. Peter, would you come forward, please? Or is it for me to do the introduction? Okay, we're getting used to being back in person. This is overwhelming, folks. I know. Well, that's right. And despite that, we love her. Sally and I have a connection through the exchange program we both had the privilege to participate in years ago. Sally's a dear friend. She's a dear friend of Rotary Melbourne's. And I guess I would just simply say to you, I don't think I need to say more. We all know her as if she's our best friend. Sally, please come up and tell us the story. Please tell us particularly how you would like Rotary to help respond to get Melbourne back to what it's always been. Okay. Thank you, Sally. Please come and join us.
That's not what I was asked to talk about. No, I'm teasing, Reg. Of course, I never miss an opportunity to talk about Melbourne, of course, and how we can all be involved in revitalising this fantastic city of ours. I do feel the warm embrace of Rotarians, both in this room and around town, as I bump into so many of you doing your good work. And I want to acknowledge that service above self and serve to change lives, themes, more than themes, it's a culture that really resonates with me, and I think really resonates across Melbourne in how we want to be and what we want to do. So thank you very much for all your hard work. As the Lord Mayor of Melbourne, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, who are the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today. I want to thank them for their care of the land and the waterways as the longest continuous living culture in the world, and confirm our commitment to reconciliation. Every effort to strengthen relationships between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal peoples has benefits for all Victorians. I know we've got many special guests, and thank you and congratulations to all the office holders. You know, I appreciate so much that sense of volunteering has been so important over the last 20 months in particular, and the roles that you play to keep this lot in order. I do acknowledge that. Well, we're here today to talk about reigniting Melbourne, and I've got a lot of notes here to try and keep me within the timeframes. But I did want to start by just acknowledging that we've shared, as some people call it, one of the biggest social experiments in our lifetimes, and we've done that together. It'll be a theme throughout this speech and many speeches that I give, because it's been one of the extraordinary silver linings for me through COVID, has been to see how we've all worked so well together. But I do love Amanda Gorman, who was the Youth Poet Laureate in the US, who gave the speech at Biden's inauguration. And her poem, I think, from that inauguration is very relevant to the experience we've just been through. And there's a part in it that goes like this: "Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, and that forever we will be tied together victorious." And this is how I feel about the last 20 months. It's been quite extraordinary. But I know that even as we went through the hardship and the anxiety, the fear, often anger, that we still grew as a community, that we did not give up hoping, and that we continued to try and frankly strive for something better. And I think that's what's reflected in the Melbourne as we go forward. Technology, here we go. Of course, all of us reflect over the last 20 months. For me, I did not anticipate any of this when I came in as Lord Mayor. As I've said to you so many times in the past, we were one of the fastest growing cities in the developed nation. We just hit a record $104 billion economy. And really one of our biggest challenges was how to harness that growth and that momentum to make sure that we could bring as many people along with us as possible. Now we are the most impacted municipality in Australia as a result of the particular circumstances we've had here in Victoria. And all of our efforts are going into creating growth, to stimulating activity and investment, and to making sure we really claim our fair share of talent, investment and opportunity as we move forward. We think the initial signs are incredibly encouraging as we've started to reopen. I call them bounce backs. We're up to bounce back 6. We're pretty good at it in the Australian context. And we know this time that vaccination is the absolute game changer to give us confidence that this pathway of reopening, and more good news tomorrow, Friday, that it is a clear pathway forward for us to keep striving for something better. I've used every network, relationship, bit of knowledge, bit of experience, skill, judgment, bit of energy that I've had over the last 20 months to do everything I can to represent Melbourne, to share the voice of so many Melburnians, but also to negotiate and prepare for the future, as so many of us have. We've had to draw on reserves we just didn't know we had. As part of those efforts in reigniting, one of the central elements was negotiating the $300 million joint fund that we have with the state government. The 3 levels of government have never worked more closely together than we have over the last 20 months, and it's something I don't want to lose. But knowing that we have the revitalisation fund available to be able to make investments, to deliver programs and projects, and importantly to know that we have aligned goals with the state government as we move forward, is a major step in streamlining how we move forward and what we do. So what are we spending that money on? Lots of things, and I'm going to give you some examples just to get excited about some of those initiatives. We do have our second serving of Melbourne money on at the moment. It's midweek Melbourne money to really focus on Monday to Thursday. It was 20% in June as part of Bounce Back 4. It is 30% to kick us off in Bounce Back 6. Please make the most of it. We know that in this week, well, already today, we're at $390,000 worth of claims, and it started on Monday. So expecting $1 million to be claimed by the end of this week. And we hope that that keeps going. Please get involved. It makes an enormous difference to our hospitality businesses. But of course, beyond that, it helps people book in accommodation. It means they're going to shop, and they're probably going to a show at the same time. That's what everybody at Moulin Rouge told me on Saturday afternoon anyway. We also, I was going to say, we know the value that it brought last time was enormous, and that's why we're confident it will do the same. We've launched a number of events as we move into the end of this year and, of course, prepare for next year. I hope everybody's getting involved in our Christmas extravaganza. We've updated and extended the Christmas decorations. We've got more free activities for families than we've ever had before. And again, all of this to entice people back to the city. We know that the biggest impact for our city economy will be when our city workers return to city workplaces, when the 90% threshold is hit and masks come off in the office. That will make an enormous difference. But in the meantime, people are still cautious about returning to high density environments. People have developed new habits and new lifestyles during this COVID period. And every single event that we put on at the moment to bring people into the city for one experience, whether it's at a theatre or a gallery, whether it's at a hotel like the Sofitel, we know that people are building their confidence up and reminding themselves about the distinctive offer we have here in the city and reasons why they would want to keep coming back. Fashion festivals on at the moment. If you haven't noticed, it's 100,000 tickets sold in record time, and plenty again of free things to do around the city. Melbourne Music Week starts towards the end of November, an amazing program. And we are planning a big New Year's Eve in the city. If you're up for it, make sure you keep the night free. It's going to be big. Of course, next year, we head into the Australian Open, to the Grand Prix, to Moomba, and the lists go on. Together with the Victorian government and many other organisations, including our cultural institutions, we're making sure that this city is busy and that we are bringing back the buzz. I just wanted to mention theatres for a moment. And arts. Of course, many of us appreciate that our arts and events sector have been amongst the hardest hit within this Melbourne context. I went to the last rehearsal of Moulin Rouge before it opened on Friday night, and the joy in the audience, but also on the stage and behind the sets of people being able to do what they do best. And perform in front of live audiences was palpable, and it's that sort of energy that is going to help bring back the buzz. Clive knows more than I do, but Harry Potter starts this week, Frozen started last week, Hamilton arrives in March. We are reclaiming and reminding people of our status of the arts capital and the events capital. And of course, if you're into cricket, Boxing Day Test, and the list goes on, the sporting capital of Australia. These elements are critical. I wanted to, before I move on, highlight one other program. Melbourne is the street art capital of Australia, and you might not be into street art. I'm not talking about graffiti. That is a scourge upon our city. But street art, Tony Elwood from the NGV has described as the most dynamic form of modern art. And it really is stunning. We have 20 laneways in the city that have street art, something to be appreciated and enjoyed. Over this lockdown period, we have engaged 80 artists to update another 40 laneways. And as you walk around the city, I hope you can see and be surprised and delighted by this street art. We've also now got an app you can use, plus a map to guide yourself around the city. But it is programs like that that have made an enormous difference to our artists during this tough time and create a wonderful legacy for our city. So that's just to name a few of the things we are doing to reignite and bring back the buzz. I'd be happy to tell you more later. I feel like a tourism ad for Melbourne at the moment, but I am glad to be that way. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our council plan, because over this year we've had a new council. Of course, we came in November last year, and we've had to establish a new council plan for this 4 years of our term. We did a lot of community consultation and talked with a lot of experts, and we're really proud of our council plan, with a vision to be a city of possibility. And when I think of the Rotary conference that will be here in 2023, how good that sense of possibility and Australia, Victoria, Melbourne opening up again to the world and really being a place where the world meets and the extraordinary happens. That is what we envisage for Melbourne through our council plan. Of course, it's got a lot of initiatives, and I'm not going to take you through all of those, but this plan is about setting the strategic objective, but it is also about the detail that goes into being a local government. Of course, we collect your rubbish and we fix potholes in the roads, but so much more than that as we rebuild our city. And I'm going to touch on a couple of those, so I'm hoping Rotary can be involved in. Supporting the council plan this financial year is a record budget. The City of Melbourne is investing $790 million directly into our economy. Our economy here in the 37 square kilometres that is the City of Melbourne is bigger than the ACT, Northern Territory and Tasmanian economies combined. It is a driver of economic prosperity in Victoria and Australia, and it's important that as a local government we are investing, doing our bit as a level of government, but also importantly that all of those businesses, and you're leading many of them, that are in the City of Melbourne feel that we are partnering with them and that they can rely on our investment to also make investments in their staff, in their business, in keeping their doors open, and that really drives us forward. We think our budget is big in size. I said it's a record for us, but it's also big on delivery and it's big on building confidence. Two projects I wanted to talk about, or themes today. One is responding to climate change, an area that Rotary has already shown a lot of interest and, more than that, leadership. We've just gone through COP26. I did present on a COP26 Mayor panel last Friday morning at 2:30 a.m. I tried to dim the lights, but it didn't work. But no, it was absolutely fascinating. And I was proud to represent Melbourne and Australia on that panel and talk about the projects that we have underway. We know that this topic continues to be controversial, but here in the City of Melbourne, our constituents have very high expectations on what we will do to be proactive around climate change. It's why we declared a climate and biodiversity emergency in 2019. It's why the City of Melbourne as an organisation has been carbon neutral since 2012. And it's why we started the Melbourne Renewable Energy Project in 2017, which means that we use 100% renewable electricity as an organisation. So every street lamp, every treadmill in one of our gyms, every barbecue in a park is powered by 100% renewable energy. But importantly, that project was all about being scalable and replicable. There are now 14 private enterprises that have joined us in that power purchasing agreement for wind energy, including universities, including the state government, including banks such as NAB, and many other organisations, including Craft and Telstra. We are so proud that our Melbourne Renewable Energy Project has already reduced carbon emissions across our city by 5%. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a big step forward. And we certainly appreciate that as much as we can do as an organisation, it's actually what we can do together that's going to make a difference. So we are starting a new project called Power Melbourne. It is to be able to have more people involved in the generation, storage and use of renewable energy. It is community scale batteries, which is not grid scale, which is what South Australia has done. It's community scale batteries. They're about the size of a container, and we will be placing them around the city to be able to support the generation of renewable energy from not just City of Melbourne assets, but also private assets, we hope, including many of the rooftops across the city, to be able to store it and then to be able to use it effectively across the grid, including our residents being able to use more renewable energy and see the difference literally by walking up to these batteries. It is a new network of distributed energy, and it will make a massive difference here in Melbourne in reducing our emissions. 60% of our emissions in the city comes from the use of energy in existing commercial buildings. So for all of the fantastic new buildings and projects that are happening, the biggest difference will come more immediately from what we can do with existing assets. Working with experts, we have some sought independent advice on what impact this could have for our economy. We're very conscious that this needs to make sense. And the great news is setting ourselves up as a centre for clean energy innovation, if we do this well together, has the potential to generate 123,000 new jobs in clean tech, in clean energy, in clean energy tech, in clean energy expertise, including manufacturing, and in green industries more broadly. That's the sort of result we need as we transition into new energy sources here in Melbourne, Victoria, and Australia. And we're really pleased that that project, Power Melbourne, is being piloted starting early next year, and will form the basis of a project that is replicable across LGAs in Victoria and Australia. We would love to talk to Rotary about how we get you involved in both of those things. Melbourne Renewable Energy Project, because we can do Mark 3 of that, but also Power Melbourne and how we get the community engaged in the use of more renewable energy across the City of Melbourne, but really Victoria and Australia more broadly. I just wanted to say that I met with youth leaders prior to speaking at COP26. And I know we probably see this on our screens, but our future leaders are demanding that we take more responsibility and take more action for responding to climate change. And I think we need to be listening to their voices because, frankly, all day, every day, we're working hard to create a better future and they're telling us what they want. I want to move to an inclusive Melbourne. I've spoken with you. I know that you already lead the way on projects that support those who are the most vulnerable in our community. COVID has hit people extremely hard. There is a lot of hardship and we will expect a cascading waterfall effect of people needing to access services and support as we go forward. One of the amazing silver linings of COVID, though, was to see what we were able to do for rough sleepers in Melbourne. An issue previously felt too costly, too complex, too difficult to solve was temporarily addressed during COVID. And that came by levels of government working together, state and local government, by service agencies coming together, Brotherhood of St Lawrence included, and by a new level of trust and really dependence of rough sleepers back into these organisations. The state government committed millions of dollars to providing safe accommodation in hotels, plus daily support services for our rough sleepers, and all of them were supported and safe during COVID. Now, this program is only temporary, but we're really pleased that the state government during COVID and as a result of that experience reflected and announced the $5.3 billion for Homes Victoria to deliver more affordable and social housing here in Victoria. It will still only bring us up to the national average. We were that far behind, but nonetheless, it is a quest that we can all be proud of and be involved in. In the city of Melbourne, we are particularly concerned about our rough sleepers coming back onto the streets of Melbourne and new people coming onto the streets of Melbourne. We did a quick survey recently of our rough sleeping population. It was down from 300 to about 80 people, which is fantastic, which means that we have broken some of the cycles that people were experiencing around homelessness, and they've been able to find, with government support and agency support, longer term housing. But of those 80, 30% of them had never had never been rough sleepers before COVID. And that's what we've got ahead of us. So we really need to put effort and resources and align our goals around supporting people experiencing homelessness. We have a project in the city called Make Room. We are giving one of our council-owned buildings at 602 Little Bourke Street to a project of providing 50 safe, supported accommodation, independent accommodation units, together with support services and a social enterprise at ground level. We've had some great government support, particularly in the ongoing funding of the project. We've appointed Unison Housing, who many of you will know, experts in this field, and it is a 24-hour secure service, and it does provide accommodation for those who are often not able to access services from other housing providers due to mostly addiction issues. This is a project where we need the community to come together and primarily help us with some fundraising, but also with ongoing support for a facility like this to make sure that we can change people's lives and that people who are our most vulnerable are able to be supported and find a better trajectory, a more positive trajectory for their lives as they move forward. That's one example of what we are doing across the social and affordable housing and providing support for people in our city. So I'm going to finish because Reg has given me the wind up. And I want to say that we want our city to be a city of possibility for everyone. We want people to feel positive and hopeful and confident about a future here. We want to make sure we get our fair share of talent, investment and opportunity to set ourselves up well for the future. And to all of you Rotarians who work so hard in your own businesses and organisations and then come together to do even more as a group together, I really want to thank you. And that brings me back, sorry, Reg, to this amazing poem by Amanda Gorman, because throughout this time of tribulation, of trauma and of hardship, we have stuck together, we have come through it. And she finishes her poem with, "For there will always be light." And I think that's what we're experiencing now, that light at the end of the tunnel, but there will always be light if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it. And Rotarians, I think you are the light, and I thank you for being brave enough to be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Absolute inspiration. And I think we've got time for a couple of questions. We have our brand new mobile microphones, Peter Davis and Peter Dakin. Would someone like to be the opening questioner? Good. Kevin Sheehan.
Peter Rogers.
Sorry, Peter.
I defer to the Honourable.
I insist you go first.
Lord Mayor, he's give me the Guernsey. Lord Mayor, you spoke about the 2023 World Convention of Rotary International, which will be hopefully the first face-to-face opportunity that Rotary will have to come back to the sort of numbers that it used to garnish each year, the 20 to 30,000 Rotarians gathering in a world city. Melbourne's a world city, but we need a little bit of extra help, don't we? It'd be great to have a national carrier, a Prime Minister, whoever, accolading the fact that Rotary is coming down under in a big way in 23. How do you think you can help us?
Good, Kevin, who's already lobbied me at the start of this event and now has publicly lobbied me. Well, look, there is an election coming up. It's always a good time to be asking for things around election time, but this conference will be the biggest in Australia, not just in 2023, but for a very long time, estimated to bring about $90 million worth of value to the local economy that is then ripples out across Victoria and Australia. And I'm certainly happy, Kevin, to help bring it to the attention of Alan Joyce and our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, who I did meet with last week when he was in town and gave very encouraging news to everybody who'd been at the breakfast and beyond that our borders will be open in just a couple of weeks now, and we can start to expect more people coming into Australia, as well as the ability to travel out. I mention that because the number one issue for our small traders at the moment is not having access to enough labour, skilled labour and just hands and feet. And so that's going to be a really enormous step forward, but more than happy to do what I can with you, Kevin and Reg, to bring this important event to their attention.
Lord Mayor Peter Rogers, well done on your presentation and congratulations on getting us through. As a ratepayer, one of the most delightful things that I saw was the introduction of the collection of green waste, recycling. And I just wondered if you could tell us how it's going and try and benchmark Melbourne as to how we do against the world's best on recycling.
Good. Well, our FOGO, as we fondly call it, food and garden waste collection. So FOGO started as a trial with single unit dwellings in about, well, tell me, was it about June? Might have been a bit earlier. 9,000 houses we rolled that out to across the municipality. We had less than 1% rejection of participating in this trial. We've now collected more than 400 tonnes of food waste that would otherwise have gone to landfill has gone to an enormous macerator out at Dandenong. I want one in the city of Melbourne. We haven't got one yet. And it's come back to help us with fertilising our parks and gardens. It's been a major triumph and we will keep going. The fact is, though, we're well behind on the FOGO collections compared to other LGAs. And the biggest challenge for us is that 84% of our residents live in high-rise. And across Australia, there still isn't a good system for FOGO collections from high-rise because they haven't been built with systems for making it easy to do that. But we are working to see how we can change that going forward. With recycling, we're leading a group at the moment of the 9 inner city LGAs to come together to look at what is a market failure around recycling here in Victoria and Australia. As you know, we can no longer ship our waste offshore. We must find ways to deal with it. And unfortunately, we just don't have enough capacity in the industry and it's becoming a monopoly or duopoly really amongst just a couple of players. So using our purchasing power, we're looking at that market failure and we're just completing a study to understand how as 9 councils we can get involved in building more capacity for recycling, particularly plastics and glass here in Victoria.
One more quick question, Sally.
Thank you. Peter Berg, thank you for a great speech, Lord Mayor, and it's also another question to do with the environment. And fantastic to hear these initiatives that are going on the way you're thinking. And it's around a webinar that I was on at the weekend, which was around a streetscape biodiversity case study that the University of Melbourne and the City of Melbourne had jointly commissioned, I think it was early last year. And there was 4 particular gardens, I think, that you were prototyping in different areas of Melbourne. I'm just wondering how you saw, this is just all around biodiversity and ecological, getting favourable biodiversity and ecological outcomes. I'm just wondering where that's at now, and the idea, I guess, was to roll out these street gardens through inner Melbourne, which is close to our heart because we're working with 6 or 7 other Rotary clubs at the moment to develop a project along those lines. So very interested to hear where the City of Melbourne is with that particular program.
Good. I think that's worthy of us having a good separate conversation so we can go into the details. And we've been doing the trials to understand what grows well and what doesn't, and what impact does it have on local biodiversity. I know when we have garden beds out the front of Town Hall, it lifts the entire city. It's glorious at the moment if you get a chance to wander by. But importantly, we've gone from 3 local species of bees within the City of Melbourne to now 36 local species of bees. And it does show the impact that biodiversity and a care for that and you know, go beyond frogs and birds and things that I'm not an expert on. But all of that ecosystem really plays an important role in how healthy we are as a community as well. So I'd be more than happy to share some of those details with Rotary and you to see how we can learn from each other. But we are trying to increase the capacity for what we call pocket parks and gardens around the city. Can I just finish by saying during COVID, when times were tough, when so many people were losing their jobs, we formed a partnership with the state government and Spotless and our business Citywide. We employed thousands of people that would otherwise haven't had no wage at all, particularly people out of catering, events and arts, who all rolled up their sleeves, and we planted 175,000 trees, shrubs and grasses across the City of Melbourne to really make the most of that time, provide employment and leave a lasting legacy for the city. So there have been some great things too.
Thanks very much, Sally. It's a shame we've run out of time. I'd just like to say thank you for bringing to the fore the environmental focus of our city. Highly relevant and will really motivate our club to get right behind that. But also the work you've been doing, the amazing work you've been doing on social justice issues. And I wanted to share a bit of feedback I've caught from a couple of people just to say how impressive the maintenance of our city's gardens has been during this pandemic. I know Bob Fells, who's sitting down there left room for questioning, but it needed to be said. Congratulations to the City of Melbourne, and thank you. Now I have a modest presentation of what's customarily become our iconic R100 socks. These are a bit different to product that you might buy at Myer because they're actually 200% manufactured here in Australia at Wilderness Wear in the north of Melbourne by our beloved past president, Philip Endersby. Please enjoy those. I suspect they add to a collection you may already have. The thing I can assure you is their quality is so amazing, they'll never wear out.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, thank you everyone for attending today. It's absolutely uplifting to get to a sold-out meeting at our home, and I believe next week the restrictions will be pretty well off completely. So it's fantastic to be coming back. Thanks also to our MC, Peter Dakin, and to Peter Davis for helping out with the new microphones, and Robert Fisher for another inspiring reflection. Our lunch setup team, of course, who actually worked pretty hard with the new technology today to get that all into shape. Thank you everyone for your contribution. And a reminder that next week is our monthly members lunch to be held here at number 35, also online. We'll be hosting District Governor Dale Hoy, and I hope you can enjoy us and you can join us for that, where we'll be talking about a lot of the directions our district is taking us in. So I think now it's my duty to call on Maestro David Cram to lead us in the national anthem. Thank you, everyone.